Would everyone rise for the Leominster School Committee meeting on Monday, November 7th? Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Let me just read our school committee statement. The committee represents the needs of all Leominster public school students and places their interests above all others. We will exercise leadership, adhere to our protocols, and base our decision upon a reasoned assessment of all available information. We will advocate for each of our schools and support high-quality public education in Leominster. Okay. Would anyone like to speak at the open forum? Once again, would anyone like to speak at the open forum? Okay, that portion of the meeting is closed. Next item, communications.
Through the chair, there are no communications this evening.
Okay. Next item, superintendent's report.
Okay, just a few items. I just wanted to begin the superintendent's report by recognizing the many individuals who were involved with bringing the Vietnam Wall that heals to Carter Park here in Leominster during November 2 to 5. Visiting the wall was a very moving experience that allowed families to not only remember their loved ones who were lost during the war, but also have a very distinct reminder of the history of the Vietnam era. So I think from the school department perspective, we want to thank the many individuals who worked so long on the logistics of bringing this important project to the community, because I think it was very beneficial to everyone, including the students who were able to pay a visit. Speaking of history, tomorrow, Tuesday, November 8th, is Election Day 2016. Just a reminder that 2 of the city's polling areas are located at 2 of our schools, Francis Drake School and the Skyview Middle School. Due to this being a national election, we have canceled classes for students during the course of the day. Staff will be reporting for a full professional development day, but there will be no students at the schools. And just as a reminder, I think we all know by this point that this is a very important election. So we urge all registered voters to be sure that they vote during the day on Tuesday. In addition, there are no classes for students and staff on Friday, November 11th, in observation of Veterans Day, which is a federal holiday. So short week this week for students. And from what we understand, there's many sleepovers that are already planned. So.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so then looking ahead at the school calendar, we have a full week of classes during the week of November 14th through the 18th. The week of November 21 through the 25th includes half days on Mondays and Tuesdays for parent-teacher conferences, and then no classes during the remainder of the week, November 23rd through the 25th, as the school district breaks for the Thanksgiving holiday recess. Just wanted to bring to the attention, as is an annual event now, we had a number of students that were recognized with the John and Abigail Adams scholarships for the class of 2017 at Leominster High School and the Center for Technical Education Innovation. We received letters a week or so ago for each student from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, and those, I believe, have been distributed to the students, and we'll make sure that school committees receive a list of the students, and we'll also place that on our district website for recognition of those students. And we had also planned a student report, but I don't see a student here, so that ends my superintendent's report.
She's at a sleepover.
She's
All
at a
right.
sleepover, that's right, yeah.
We'll move to
My
item
house
number
probably.
2A, which is Pre-Street School Presentation.
All right, so we're at Pre-Street. We always pay attention to our principal and assistant principal at the school that we're located at to provide a presentation. And tonight, Jim will be overviewing early childhood and all of the locations that are involved other than pre-street, so.
Well, thank you. And we're really happy to present tonight. We want to thank you for the opportunity and also for all the support that we've enjoyed. I'm here, Jim Riley, Principal of Early Childhood, along with Ann Margaret, Tessie Mitchell, my other better half. We had a quirk in the schedule last year, so we actually didn't get to present to school committee last year, and we included some of the initiatives that we had completed last year in the packet report that we gave to you. Today, we really would like to mostly concentrate both on our current context in early childhood, and then also talk about some of the initiatives that we're putting in place in response to that. One of the things when we talk about early childhood is that there is a changing landscape out there for us. And we're sharing this information with the intent to inform, not to complain. But we have some highly specialized preschools, and the demands placed on those programs have changed considerably over the last couple of years. I think most evident, if you came up to Somerset Preschool, would be the fact that we now have two substantially separate classrooms. And those are classrooms that are providing services but don't service classroom peers. One of the reasons for that is that population has increased from approximately 3 students 2 years ago to currently 11. And so I think that that's important because in a lot of ways our staff has done a great job, and they've shown a lot of flexibility and commitment to the students that they serve. But we've asked them to take on different roles than they ever have before. And we've also asked them to be flexible, switching between classrooms and sometimes the schools that they work in. We've also seen a change in our preschool population at both our inclusion rooms at Somerset and Bennett. That's happened for a number of reasons. Some of it is children coming in or moving in from out of town, but also kids who are just coming up through early intervention, and they have shown more profound needs as far as behavior, sometimes the physical limitations, and then also sometimes they're diagnosed with syndromes like Down syndrome. We've also seen changes at Pre-Street, and one of the things that we've seen at Pre-Street is we have a level of need that we really have never experienced before, to be honest with you. This year, our low socioeconomic status families is 68%, and that's, I'd say, close to 20% higher than it's ever been before. Right now, it's currently, I believe, the highest in the district. And I'd also say that that's a very conservative number. So that's what we've uncovered since the start of the school year, but my guess is we could have another 5 to 7% of families who are in need of support for our lunchtime meals. That's how we define these families. We've also really leveled off in the number of displaced families that we're servicing. We currently have 16, and that's the same number that we had last year, even with the shelter operating locally. So those are things that we share because it speaks to the changing ways that we've been interacting and the level of support that the families who we work with need. Some of the ways this can manifest itself isn't just in the specific populations or groups that we serve, but the overall level of need when children enter our kindergarten program. And one of the things we wanted to share with you, and it's a little blurry on the screen and I apologize, but this is an actual data sheet from when we did our initial benchmark testing the second week in September. And what it shows is when we assess children, September 14th was approximately half the class presented as at risk. And that's a level of students that need the highest level of intervention. And Margaret could, I'm sure, explain it far better than myself, but basically what it tells us is when those children enter kindergarten for us, they need substantial support. And this is a regular education classroom, and over half the students have presented with that level of need. I think one other thing to note when looking at this data is the range that kids present with. So we have children who did not know a letter and weren't able to correlate an initial sound with a letter. And then we had some children who were able to identify over 40 letters and could identify over 40 initial sounds. So it shows you the variability that teachers are faced with when they're in a regular education classroom and trying to make sure all those kids get the optimum experience that they can get. Bless you. It's really not just what our kids come in knowing, it's also that we're servicing different families and who bring different experiences with them to our program. This year at Pre-Street, we're almost 40% Latino. A third of our families nearly speak another language at home that is not English, and 21% of our students qualified for ESL services. And so that's certainly a significant change as well as we move forward. And we realize that means that we need to re-examine how we work with families and how we partner with them to make sure their child's getting the best experience. So, go ahead.
And so, as Jim mentioned, as we continually face a changing population in early childhood, of course, our school improvement plan and our initiatives reflect that and align with the district improvement plan. And our first, under promoting student achievement and looking at ways that we can differentiate our practice, so truly meeting the needs of our diverse learners, examining that practice continually, having teachers and interventionists as well as administrators meeting regularly to ensure that we're using the best strategies, the best interventions to service our diverse population and to meet the needs of our learners. Secondly, incorporating technology is a big initiative for us. With our new website, and now all teachers and staff have a Google account, which is a wonderful opportunity for us here in early childhood, especially being in 3 different buildings. We have the ability now through Google Docs to share information, best practices, update calendars, and really take full use of that technology to ensure that we have great communication, that teachers are all on the same page, and of course, to help students as well. Thirdly, supporting collaborative planning, and again, that's very important that through the Google Docs and all of those things that we can support teachers. It can be updated live. So if a teacher is working on a document from a curriculum meeting and another teacher in another building has another great idea to add, it's instant. And so that really helps us to bond as a learning community and to really make our program that much stronger. And lastly, under that, promoting student achievement, observing instructional practices. So this year, Jim and Stephanie McGuirk, our special education coordinator, and I have really made a strong commitment to hold weekly administrative meetings. And we start our meeting usually with a walkthrough of the building that we're in, so we sort of rotate through the buildings. It's a learning walk. It's a way for us to really see what's happening in classrooms, what practice looks like, and we instantly provide feedback to the teachers so that we have maybe a particular focus, and it's a way for us to really communicate to the staff instantly after we meet. It also gives us an opportunity as administrators to see our strengths in our program and then areas of need and where we need to work or have professional development or focus our curriculum meetings as well. And the second part of our school improvement plan initiatives, which also align with the district improvement plan, is interacting with data, which is crucial in order to really help our students, especially given the diverse population that we now have here. So identifying common measures. In fact, our teachers tomorrow in professional development, our kindergarten teachers, will be working with other kindergarten teachers to ensure that we are using common measures as evidence for report card growth and all of those, so that the alignment is in place. And that's a really important practice, that as we look at our standard-based report cards, and that we know that teachers across the district are using the same measures to ensure student growth. Secondly, assessing multiple domains. So not only, of course, in early childhood, early literacy skills are important, and to look at that growth, such as through our DIBELS data and MAP data. But in addition to that, we have to be aware that it's so important that we look at social and emotional growth as well of our students. And we do use the measure of Teaching Strategies Gold in the preschool level to ensure that we're looking at the whole child and measuring multiple domains of growth. And then comparing marginalized groups. Jim discussed that, we have a very diverse population this year. And so how do we as a school really sit down with interventionists such as Title I staff, ESL staff, ourselves, as well as teachers to ensure that we are using best practices to help students really, grow in all areas, and how do we really look at those subgroups and dig down into the data to see what the issues may be for that particular subgroup, what we can do to promote learning and growth among them. And lastly, adapting our practices needed, of course. This is the underpinning of everything, and so as we look at the data, as we look at our subgroups, how do we adjust our practice accordingly, and that we need to do that on a regular basis as well.
So beyond looking at the student experience, I think we're really trying to actively look this year about how we engage families and work with families, and then also how we work with our community partners. And I think that when we reflect on our family engagement, we've had some really pretty successful initiatives, to be honest with you, so far. I mean, I think if you walked into the building today at the bottom of the stairs, you'd see our display table. That rotates every month, and we'll have a different theme, and it's taken on by a different classroom. So when parents walk into the building, they can see, oh, wow, this is what my child's class is working on right now. Or if not their particular child's class, can see the exact activities that are happening in the building. So that's one way we're trying to bring parents into the classroom, because they may not be able to see right outside the classroom door, but at least they have kind of a pinhole or a peek hole through what might be going on in their child's classroom, even if they're just coming to say pick them up at the nurse, or just coming in for a moment to dismiss their child. I think we've also worked hard to expand both our Title I nights, which support literacy through the Title I grant, in which we have whole school activities and are supporting families. We typically will serve them a meal. We had an author night last year. We'll have one again this year. Typically kids will go home with a book or a literacy game. And then a lot of times we work with families as they rotate through stations to show them, how we work with children, either interacting and reading a story, or possibly playing a fun game around, letters or initial sounds or things of that nature. We've also been very fortunate, particularly here at Pre Street, where we've had a number of curriculum days that really focus more on inquiry. And so we have science events where we've had between 40 and 50% of our families participate, and they come into the school. And Superintendent Jolliker was at all our events last year, and they're really a lot of fun, and they're really a nice opportunity for parents to see, what it's really like in a typical day in K. And they are honestly always great. They go home exhausted, sometimes more than the kids, but I think we all leave for the richer when we've had those experiences. We'd like to continue to expand those opportunities, and we're also looking at other ways to make sure that those opportunities are enjoyed by all families. And so one of the things we're doing is to look at our family engagement, to look at data. Who comes to our events? Who comes to conferences? And again, look at those demographics and say, is there any group that we're not servicing? And then what do we need to do differently so they feel like they're an active part of their experience here with us? We're also, that includes looking at technology. The school district has a new website that's really a lot easier to update, to be honest with you, and that's something we're looking at both with our classroom teachers and ourselves as a program to make sure we're communicating in that way. The other thing the district is doing that's really nice, especially here in kindergarten, is we have Envisions and we have Reading Wonders, which allow parents to access our curriculum at home, electronically. And so that's something that's nice, where they can see what books they're actually working on in class, or what the theme is that they're working on in their literacy programs. I think we're looking at our ability to understand different experiences. So we've had active professional development this year on our own cultural competency, whether that's working with families who may be at risk because of their socioeconomic status, or because they're speaking another language at home. But we're really going to be trying this year to embed those multiple perspectives into our work. And so what I mean by, I think we're going to really try to actively recruit a parent who may not be our traditional representative on our school council. and make sure we're getting those other perspectives, and people can tell us if they feel like they're engaged, if they feel like we're supporting them, and maybe some other ideas of how we can change our work. I think lastly, and our whole goal honestly here tonight was to talk about early childhood and make sure that it really remains a focal point of what we do in the district, but also in Leominster as an entire community. You know, it shows that our new families, and they're coming in, you know, they're coming with kids who have some significant needs, but there are also some marvelous strengths in these families. And there's going to need to be a coordinated process with the schools, working with community providers, to make sure when these kids enter their formal schooling here, you know, at Pre-Street or other kindergartens, that they're ready to succeed and achieve their dreams. And I think, you know, we've tried to do some of that work, and certainly the superintendent, I have to say, early childhood has been on his radar, on his agenda, as much as any superintendent I've ever worked with, to be honest with you. And that has included his, you know, participation and presence at our events, but it also includes him promoting things like the Early Childhood Summit, which we had last year, which is an attempt to get providers around the table so we can talk about what's best for Leominster kids. And I think that that's something that we're continuing to commit to. We did some shared PD with community-based programs 2 years ago, and I think we're looking to make sure we get back into that. One of the ways we're going to be, that'll be in evidence here at Pre-Street, is we're going to have a community learning walk where we invite other programs to come in and see what it's like in a typical day in kindergarten when they leave their programs. And so those are some ways we're looking to expand that. And we're also going to continue to work with the district to examine our district options for both consolidation, because as Ann Margaret said, technology or not, 3 buildings is tough. And we're not sure that, you know, parents and families get the optimum experiences that they could if we were in one consolidated space. And the other thing is we're looking at, you know, how we could possibly expand our services through partnerships with our community-based providers. Because ultimately, we know we can't do it alone. And ultimately, it's about all the kids in Leominster, not just the ones that we service in our preschool. So those are some thoughts. Do you have any questions? Sure.
So I'm not going to speak for the other people that went to the conference this weekend, Ronnie and Eileen and Jim and Wendy, but I found that a lot of what they were talking about was the social emotional learning and how important it is, and it just seemed like it was a big focus of the entire time we were there. And I don't think we realize, one of the guest speakers that was there talked about that there's 2 types of curriculum. There's the curriculum that your teachers teach to the child, and then there's the curriculum that the kids teach to their peers.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all of these students that come from so many various different cultural backgrounds.
Yep.
Where they're taught, not that they're taught prejudices, it's not the word I'm looking for, but they're taught customs and what's right and what's wrong from their own cultures in their home, and then they come into your school and, to us it might be a behavior issue, but really it is something that's a cultural thing, right? So I think that's great that you are focusing on that, because really when we get them right away is when you notice those kind of things and you're able to effectively teach that child. So thanks, that's great.
Questions? Nona?
Just not really a question, but a comment. Last year, I attended the Early Childhood Summit, and I found it enlightening, just amazing. And I would encourage, if you have one again this year, I would encourage all of us to attend it. You learn so much, and one of the things that just shocked me was the fact that if you don't get these students early and teach them and work with their parents to teach the parents how to read to them, how to talk to them, that if they drop out, when they reach high school age, if they drop out of school, it's going to cost the taxpayer over a lifetime $300,000 to support that person on whatever assistance they need to have because they dropped out of school. And that just blew my mind that it comes down to that and how easy it is. And because of that summit, I ended up getting involved with the Leominster Community Coalition that goes around, particularly during the summertime, to playgrounds and reads to children and pass out books to kids to take home. And what a rewarding experience that is to do. and that we also do it during the year at different activity levels, not as much as the summertime, but we do it year-round. So I've become a part of that because it really is so important to grab these children when they're young, so by the time they're in third grade, they're reading at the level they need to be reading at to be successful all the remaining years that they're in school. And I commend you for running this, experiencing it. I also, I visited up at Samoset Pre-K, had a wonderful experience there, seeing the classrooms and seeing the kids, and was welcomed with open arms by some students. And I've attended the activities here that you've had, and it's just such a great experience that you're doing, that you both are doing, and it just shows that you're overcoming the obstacles of running 3 buildings. And if there was any way we can find a way of bringing those 3 schools in under one roof, just think how much more can be done. It would just be amazing. And that's really my goal. I drive around town looking for spots that you can be under one roof.
Questions, please? Questions, anybody? Susan? And then Ron. Questions,
Jim,
please?
thank you for the presentation. What is your referral rate from early intervention?
As far as,
How many kids are we getting in?
Are we getting in?
Yeah, we talk about this every year because
yeah,
it's
I mean, since, I think when we last spoke in the spring, we were anticipating, it was between, I think, around 12 and 15 referrals over the summer until the end of December. I think what we found is we're not only getting referrals from EI, we're getting referrals or move-ins from other, but also we're getting a lot of move-ins. And a lot of the families who move in sometimes have pretty substantial needs. They're coming with IEPs already, and they're requiring the placement that's on the IEP. And so I would say, of the students that have required a separate placement, I think this is, I don't know this for a fact, but I'd say approximately maybe half have been recent people who have recently moved into the community. I could get you a better number. Our EI numbers are pretty consistent, to be honest with you. I mean, our numbers at Samoset right now, we're at 50. We average about 13 in a class, but now we only have 3 inclusion classrooms where we used to have 4. And that's because those substantially separate classrooms have to have smaller numbers and greater numbers of staff, because that's what the kids require, both for safety and in the programming that they need. They need 1-to-1, or I mean really 2-to-1 servicing, where they're getting discrete trials, they're running programs, they're really learning basic skills, and they're not ready for peers yet. And so that's what makes our it's more the acuity, the need of the kids coming in than necessarily the overall numbers.
Right.
I'd say the same thing at Bennett, although Bennett's, consistently will grow. I mean, right now, at Bennett, I think we're at 130, I want to say, and we'll end up at, upwards of 160. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ron, question?
It's just to piggyback on what Heather was saying. Thanks to Jim, both Jim Jolliker and Jim over here, you seem to be ahead of the curve, because, like Heather was saying, a large part of these, I was just looking over the stuff that I printed regarding what we had gone to, and a large percent of the classes were exactly on these particular topics we were pointing out. And a lot of it felt like it was repeat, because we had already heard this stuff. And it's kind of funny hearing it from other voices, from other places, that some of them, they were just starting to deal with the stuff now, versus we've already been having our heads into this stuff. And it was illuminating, because we did get a lot of new ideas, a lot of old ideas that got bandied about and maybe played more, but it is the next thing that's coming down the pike. And interacting with the data, interpreting the growth of that data, I think it's extremely important, and comparing the marginalized group. Like Heather, she was saying, those two groups of teaching, the teaching that's taught by the teachers and the teaching that's taught by the kids, I really think that, sometimes we overlook that, whether the kids are yay so high or yay so high. It's their culture. And us, the adults, whether we like to admit it or not, we represent the enemy. We can be familiar enemies or just the establishmentary enemies. And we have to learn to bridge that. Because sometimes the kids won't really listen to what we have to say. All they hear is yada, 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 yada. Good, bad, or indifferent. But I commend you for your, putting yourself out there, because it's good information that you're putting out. And incorporating technology, yeah, it's a big thing, technology. Will always be harnessed and hampered by the technology that's present. Anyway, that's my piece.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say too, first of all, we do appreciate the support. I also want to say that a lot of this work, it's really primarily done by the staffs. And so I just want to reiterate again, we've been very fortunate. We've had a really solid teaching staff, a great group of paraprofessionals, tutors, specialists, and they continue to really do what's best for kids. And I think that that's what a lot of this work represents. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, did you have a second, or you can email me if you don't mind, just sort of the capital needs for this particular building and maybe Bennett, if you could.
That's great. Thank you.
We'll move on now to October 1 enrollment report.
Okay, what we've put together for you is in the executive summary that I sent you over the weekend. You had all the information from the actual reports out of our student information system that are submitted to the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, and those are report 4, which are the enrollment statistics for every school, and then as the summary for the district as a whole. And in addition to that, while I was down at the conference, I was going back and forth looking at the school committee agenda, because Chris and I were kind of working on it through a long-distance relationship here. But I realized that we typically run a Excel spreadsheet for you that actually shows you the student counts in every classroom in the district. So I asked Barbara Davis to pull that data together for you. We had that this morning, and I sent the PDF out to you this afternoon. And we've also provided you with hard copy here this evening. And in addition to that, the vice chair emailed me and asked me for a one-page summary of the October 1 enrollment, which is ultimately all the data that was provided to you in report 4, but we summarized it into pre-KK, grades 1 through 5, which is the current grade configuration for our elementary schools, 6 through 8, which is the grade configuration for our middle schools, and then our 3, 9 to 12 buildings. Total district enrollment for October 1, 2016 is 6,118, which is pretty consistent with what we've experienced over the last couple of years. We've had, I'm in a lot of regional sessions and roundtables with other superintendents, and maybe the mayor can help me with this, but Fitchburg has had significant increase in enrollment, which is close to 1 to 200 students more, and it seems like our parent information center just doesn't stop. But I'm wondering, do you know dynamics in Fitchburg as to why their enrollment would be increasing? Is it a housing difference, or, yeah?
Cost of housing here is get back to 20% down to get a house.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult for a young family or a young person to, you know, acquire one. So the rents have gone up, and that's forced a lot of people to have
To
to
find
relocate. Yeah, I mean,
alternatives,
you know,
yeah. So this is pretty consistent. As you can see from the summary sheet, the pre-K population is about 559. The 1 through 5 is 2301. The middle school population is 1366. And 9 to 12 between the three schools is 1821. And then we have 71 students at present that are located in schools outside of our district. So I think you have all the data that you typically have requested, so.
Usually we get the year to year. We go back
Yeah, I'll
10
go
years.
back to that. I had that spreadsheet, but I didn't have time to update
That's
that today, but
But
I'll
we
get that.
can send it,
Sure.
no hurry.
Sure.
It's not a
Yep.
big deal.
Yep.
Just one comment, I really like getting the October 1 figures, this October 1 report. I think it gives you a lot of information. And one of the things that really kind of jumped out at me, looking it over, is that not quite half of the student body of Leominster is low income. And I find that amazing. I find that really amazing.
Most
It's,
cities much higher than that, 75, 80, 85%.
I beg your pardon?
Most cities, gateway
Yes.
cities, it's higher.
Oh, is it really?
It's
I just was
75,
surprised that it was
80%.
almost half of, you know, I didn't think, I thought it would be lower. I thought it'd maybe be 30% or something.
No, I
But
think,
it's that it's, you know, it's almost half.
Gina, your current percentage was, I think we're up to 54?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I find that amazing. That's,
So I have a quick question, a little off topic, I'm sorry, but what is the percentage that we would have to meet to get that same kind of grant that Fitchburg has where every child eats free? Because I know there's a threshold that you have to meet in order to get.
I think it's 60, Glenn?
It's also by school.
Yeah, it's by school,
I
yeah.
think Southeast
Because
has
I think,
breakfast.
It's breakfast in the classroom.
Francis
Yes.
Drake has
Breakfast in the classroom.
breakfast in the classroom. We've recently implemented at Fallbrook. I think we talked about this.
the
Northwest has made an attempt at it, but they kind of backed off a little bit. And I think Johnny Appleseed is next, but Francis Drake was well over 60% when they implemented, so.
but the other thing I wanted to ask, they don't put, how many kids are taking AP courses on this anymore? It used to be on the October 1 report.
I don't believe so, yeah, I don't,
No. No.
yeah.
Right,
What-
this is triple.
May I ask a
Not the
double-
scores. I'm talking about those who are enrolled in an AP course at the high school as of right now.
We'll just look at last year's and we'll be able to tell, right?
Yep.
May I ask the devil's question? With these amounts that we have here today, what are the projections for, is it less than last year? And how does it project, how is it going to look? Based on based on the numbers we had last year, what does it look like and how it's gonna be in June? These numbers?
For projected population?
Yeah.
Well, we have fluctuations during the course of the year, but I don't anticipate that we're
Which,
gonna have
which
any.
class, which
dramatic
school or
increases of-
classes do you have well, I guess basically what I wanna know is, which schools, which classes do you notice the most fluctuation?
I think that that's difficult to pinpoint a particular school or particular classes. The way that, and Gina helped me out here, but the way that the Parent Information Center handles registrations, it's in the community in which the individual registers. And then ultimately, Gina keeps a careful watch on the class sizes, which I presented to you in this spreadsheet, which I think if you go down the class sizes, our class sizes are very, very, very good. But you keep an eye on the class sizes so that we don't over-enroll, so.
High school, not as much as far as students coming in and students coming. In the pre-K, the numbers is a lot.
And, go ahead, I don't mean to dominate this.
Where do we get, I think years and years ago when I first started doing this, we had like a 5-year projection. Where do we get that? Where do you get the?
It's way
is
too,
that
I mean,
census?
yeah, but it's way too hard because the housing trends make it really difficult. For instance, a lot of people have put their houses up for sale in a good economy, and that could mean a couple of things. That could mean an elderly couple that sold their house to a younger couple who's got kids.
Turnover, yeah.
You know, and yet at Brooks Pond, very few kids inside that
Right,
development.
right.
Yet up on the end of Willard Street, you know, they continue to put foundations in. Birthing trends is the way typically we've done it. But there's too many variables in there now with so much happening and, you know, the cost of housing and, you know, that's.
There's been years past where we actually had somebody go out and do, you know, sort of a plan.
Yeah.
Right, and they use the
You know,
birthing trends
right,
to,
and,
but
you know,
that's
and the census
difficult
and this
to.
and that, but we haven't done that in a long time because there's now too many variables, like you said.
Right.
But we've done that, like,
So you live
15 years
east of
ago.
here,
Burning
the higher cost of pushing people. So if you're in Wellesley, they've pushed to Ashland and Natick, and, you know what I mean? So in Framingham, and then Framingham's pushed its way out. And so, you know, everything comes west,
Yeah.
you know, for people to try to stay up on the housing market. Right now, I mean, you're anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 for,
But the
Two
piggyback
bedroom
on
apartment
Gina's,
I think what also impacts our numbers too are our doubling up numbers.
that's
They're
just
like
where I was
triple.
leading up
They
to.
triple.
Jim, have we
That's where I was
thought at all
leading up
about
to.
an amnesty day to capture our non-registered children choicing in?
Yeah, we've thought about it. Right now, Gina's just trying to stabilize registrations and stabilize free and reduced lunch. And I
I've
think,
done a lot of work in that area.
yeah, and I think we wanted to complete that cycle before we started to actually focus in on the actual registrations. But there's a lot of dynamics regarding the registrations. We've had a couple of situations that have popped up in regard to our investigation of registrations, et cetera, so I'm working with the Department of Elementary Ed on that. But getting back to the enrollment projections, NESDEC will still do the enrollment projections, so if we want to, I don't really think it has a tremendous cost to it. We could still have them run through the exercise and see. They do, I think, 5 and 10-year projections or something, but as the mayor said, there's so many variables in this region right now, it's hard to pinpoint that. But yeah, we have looked at the amnesty cycle, so I think we could probably do something like that, so.
Even if it wasn't, even if it was unscientific, because you could squirrel in, as she was saying, the devil in me was wondering about the doubling in. How does it skewer the results we have?
Well, it doesn't, because those kids are definitely in our town, so that doesn't matter, they're our kids.
I know there are
But
kids.
the only thing that matters is if they were really coming from a surrounding town without telling us. But-
That's the part.
Is that what you're asking? How
Yeah.
many kids are actually living in Fitchburg but are coming here and
Yeah.
saying they live here? That's not quite the same as that.
Well, it can skewer the numbers, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
Because
So
no
I
matter
think
how
just
you look at it,
trying to get
there's a
handle on
piece
we
that,
don't have a clear-
even if it was an unscientific methodology, at least you'd have some numbers telling you what you're looking at. That's all I'm asking. I'm not trying to be,
Oh, no, you're not,
Cute
it's
or
just,
stupid.
Question, Ronnie.
it's very, very, it's a nebulous.
It worries me because, as Dean was saying, it is expensive to own a house or even rent. And some people will go to any kind of various means to make sure they're here.
Yeah, it's a nebulous process, though, at some point, because in a lot of
Because it
cases.
goes back to what Jim was saying over here. Compare marginalized groups. And that's what we're talking about, the marginalized groups.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say, the problem is not our fault, but the
No,
problem
no,
is.
I didn't say it was our
Is
fault.
that, no, what I'm saying is, it's not our fault, because it's how we have to operate is that people know, sort of the underground movement here, understands that if you get caught, if you're from another town and you're sending your students here, you know, those kids here, or grandkids in a lot of cases, then if caught, they have to go back.
Right.
On the other hand, if they knew we were here, then we get the proper reimbursement. On the other hand, we've got students that are.
That's three hands. You
Yeah,
only
I
have two
know,
hands
but
and
the
five
third
fingers
piece
on
of-
each hand.
But the third piece of this is, if they're found, they might not be able to come here because we have students in our own district waiting to go to another school. So, what do you tell the parent whose child is waiting?
Is waiting,
Who's
right.
bringing their kids to 3 different schools and is waiting to, for something to happen, and they find out this other student is from another city or town coming here, and we're like, yeah, well, it would really help if we had the money. So all those things are moving around, and I think they've done a great job of letting it be known that if you're from another place, yeah, you might not be able to stay, and I think that's, people that always come up with these little covert sort of ways or underground ways to try to buck the system, but I don't know how much else you can do other than a, house-to-house search or something.
Yeah, I know.
Keep reapproaching the tenant officer position if you could, and I think that would be vital. Years ago, I remember working with Pete there, and it really was beneficial.
And a lot of those kids do well in the system. They
Oh,
do
no.
very well.
Oh, they do.
They're not problems, they're just trying to get the best education they can. But socioeconomically, they can't afford to be here, and they've been forced out or for whatever reasons, so they're not, but, there are all these other things. But again, I understand the parent who says, they're hauling my kids to 3 different schools.
Right.
And-
The trend that I'm seeing in the past couple of weeks was the church sponsoring families to come.
Yeah.
It really are in dire need, so we see that.
That's been a major uptick. A lot of families from Africa and other,
Going through a terrible
yeah.
time.
Yeah. And it's really the that element of population that's growing, and that's why it's hard to predict. If you look at the long 20-year, long-range plan, enrollment numbers for all of Worcester County, it's down. Just because at the time, younger families just weren't having children, or they were holding off. Now,
Waiting later.
they're waiting later
They're not
because
having
they have
small children.
student loans to pay off, again, the 20-year, the 20% down payment, so everybody's holding off. But there are all these other areas that we didn't calculate for, which, other cultures have more kids, which has always been the case.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gina.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so now that we got our October enrollment report, we're gonna move on to our overview of topics from the Mass Association of School Committee, Mass Joint Conference in Hyannis. And I think, Jim, you gave us a update on your
Yep.
sort of, did everybody submit one of those?
Not everyone submitted, but we
Yeah.
figured we'd just kind of cruise around, not take a lot of time, but as Heather had indicated, the last 3 years, the Mass Association of School Superintendents has had its Summer Executive Institute focused on social emotional learning. Mass Association of School Committee has started to focus on that, and this was really their first full year focused on social emotional learning. It's being incorporated into all content areas and then in all aspects of public education. So it's a huge area, primarily due to populations of students that are coming in with terrible anxiety issues that are bordering on depression, that the students are coming into classrooms prepared to learn. So it's a huge issue. We have a very significant partnership with the SHINE Initiative, and I think I alluded to a couple of those in the reflections this week as to some of the inroads that were made with LGBTQ and orientation of staff to the needs of those students, as well as finally getting a fully trained facilitator in the district with Jen Mundy in mental health first aid. So we're well ahead of it. We've had it incorporated into our district improvement plan now for at least 3 years. And I think the school committee members, based upon the interaction that we've had over the last 3 days, the school committee members who attended, they really got a true appreciation as to the challenges that we face on a daily basis. So I'll let you guys
So,
speak to that.
yeah, I'll just briefly talk about a couple of the ones that I went to. I went to Families in Crisis, Addressing the Social and Emotional Needs of Student and Families. So that was, a theme throughout, and it really was talking much like everybody has said about educating the whole child. So I won't go into, really any great detail on that, but it really is talking about gardening, a lot of community support, and establishing coalitions and networking within the community to help support sort of the village to raise a child kind of thing. I went to advocacy and media strategies, and they were really talking about treating a lot of your media like almost like a political campaign. We should be blogging, we should be tweeting, we should be, obviously putting everything in the newspaper, but on the web, and really all the different ways that we should be reaching out to people, because media is so very different than it used to be. But really touting a lot of your successes in gardening, again, trying to gather support for your students. I went to virtual education, family engagement for student achievement, and it really was basically talking about, even though we have virtual, classrooms, it's really important to get the parent involved in how to accomplish that with a different type of learning. So that was interesting. Went to MIAA. Basically, they kind of gave an overview of, sort of what they do, but ultimately they had a bunch of statistics, and for children involved in sports, the dropout rate is practically zero, the graduation rate is practically 100%. Kids do better in testing, at all levels across, the board, so they really were talking about, it's not just sports, it's what keeps kids engaged, it's what keeps kids, doing well, because they want to be able to keep playing sports, so they are more apt to perform higher, and they tend to have higher GPAs than non-students collectively who are not involved in athletic events. There's quite a offering that we have and across the state. There's all kinds of awards and different kinds of leadership and sportsmanship opportunities for our students, so hopefully we can get them engaged in some of the more statewide activities. Then we had two keynote speakers. One was on the social emotional learning, mental health needs of children in and out of the classroom, and again, really talking about mental health needs and really supporting children in all areas of life. And the other one was questions school committees should be asking, and it really was talking about, how to really effectively meet the needs of your students, and really, again, talking about classroom learning versus learning from each other, and how that can be both pros and cons for each, and how do you deal with that and deal with such diverse demographics. So that's just a little synopsis.
Okay, so I went to the social emotional learning priority through the education pipeline, which I wanted to bring up because one of the things they were doing was what was in your packet about partnerships with non-school private providers in the neighborhood, so that kids that came out of those were having the same social emotional learning as the kids in the district schools, so that they were all K-ready and sort of more on the same page. So that was something that some other districts were just looking at. So that you're doing that was, I wanted to let you know that was something that they're looking at and you're doing, so very good on that. I went to the building blocks for learning and the connection between social emotional health and academic achievement. And what carried through on a lot of these social emotional ones is that academic achievement is improved when that social emotional piece is taken care of. One of the ones that I went to was Between a Rock and a Calm Place, which the woman Jessica Minahan was amazing. And
I second that.
she does
She was
PDD,
amazing.
so just keep that in mind. But what she shared with us that 13 to 18-year-olds, 1 in 4 of them have anxiety issues. And that's actually becoming more and more as with the younger kids too, and now they're even seeing it in preschool and kindergarten. So the anxiety piece and that social emotional piece is affecting learning from the earliest ages. And she talked a lot about the IQ points that students learn in the moment of anxiety. So these were really some important issues they were talking about. The one that stuck with me the most was the transgender panel. And it's what became clear is that throughout the state there isn't a consistent level of support that these students are getting. Jim and I were sitting there, and they told us 2 stories. One was a young man who got an eating disorder and got quite ill because the bathroom became an issue. And he wouldn't eat or drink at all during the school day because he was terrified of the bathroom. then a peer, an age peer of his was having a completely different experience in another school where it wasn't an issue, and she was doing amazingly well. And she said, being a typical teenage girl, one of the fun things was the girls gossip and trade makeup secrets, and the bathroom is a fun place. So these are two kids in two different schools, and they're having, so there's not a standard of care and support for these kids. So that's something that definitely needs a lot of work. It was, again, all about the social emotional piece, which you guys pretty much covered. But the one other. I went to the special education issues update, and that one kind of worried me a little, because the person, I don't have the book with me, so I don't remember her name. It was Colleen, I don't remember her last name. But it was supposed to be about the issues updates facing SPED, but her seminar was a lesson on how to avoid giving services. And it was really jarring to sit here. She was teaching this room of superintendents and school committee members and teachers and whoever was in there how to avoid providing services for students, and how to navigate the difference between parents who know their rights and those who don't, and how much you can get away with, and which hearing officers to ask for, and all of that kind of stuff. So it was very, very, that one left me feeling very uncomfortable.
Who was the one that gave it though? Who'd she work for?
I honestly don't remember.
Were the
I
people
have the
were
book.
people in there?
I got the book.
Oh, yeah. And they were, the people that were in there were eating this up and asking questions. Like, she advised them to what?
What day?
It was on Thursday, 4 to 5:15, special education issues update.
But
Well, obviously, somebody asked them to put that on, so they did it for whatever audience wants to hear
It didn't
I guess.
sound like it didn't match
Right,
the
you didn't think you
description.
were going to that class.
Colleen Dolan, Executive Director of EDCO.
What was her name?
Colleen Dolan, Executive Director of EDCO.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Edco, she said, yeah.
It's just the initials, all capital.
But
You thought you were going on
you
that
know
class.
Wendy went up to her after the class, right? Because you know that
I
Wendy
did.
wasn't.
I'll be honest,
Did she have a PowerPoint?
yes.
Did you ask for it?
She said it would be on the website.
Because I've looked at a
But
website 3 ways till Sunday.
It was just case, her PowerPoint was all just case
Right.
information.
Case log, yeah,
But
yeah.
whenever she talked about autism, it was autism. She told us how to tell if a parent is faking it, or how to make sure if it looked borderline, how to get around. It was just, it was not. It was that was the only unpleasant experience I had the whole weekend.
Yeah. I'm sure they look at it as some people kind of push the system, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just didn't expect it.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm
I was
surprised.
That they would put that
I was
on.
very, very surprised, and I was surprised watching the people around me, like, drooling at the mouth.
Taking notes.
Yeah, it's gonna save money for the
Yeah,
district.
I guess, there's
But-
two sides of
I
the
know,
equation.
I
It's
know.
just
I mean-
funny they would do that.
There's gotta be
you
a
know?
balance
Right,
between
right.
being fiscally responsible and still giving students what they need, and that's what I
Right.
thought I was going
Right,
into,
right.
and that's not what I went into. But I really just want to stress that the social emotional learning piece was such an important part of all of this, because kids do we just had a presentation at our last meeting on the test scores. If we can do a whole child approach, it seems test scores will reflect that, so.
Yep, thank you.
One of
Thank
the
you.
other things I forgot to mention is, they have a, whatever you call it, a general assembly that you walk around and talk to different vendors.
Like a trade show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the trade show.
Did
And
you
there
win?
was one that was on.
No, she didn't
a data-
win.
No, I didn't win anything. So bummed. A data dashboard that was like awesome, the three of us, and then we had Jim, go over. And I would strongly, endorse us using it. It really was easy to navigate. You could get as little or as much information at your fingertips around all the different demographics and funding and the sources.
Where
and
the money's coming from, where
it
it's
compares
going.
you to other, like,
Peer districts, yeah.
communities, so it was Framingham had done it, and we came up as one of their peer districts with the same, sort of number of type of population.
Can you
and
send us
stuff
the
like
link
that.
or
So it's
whatever?
just very
Actually, since
Can you
it's
send
my
us the
turn,
information?
let me tell you that, I don't know if you read it yet or not, but Jim and I signed up on their sheet. So they sent us,
I already got an email today.
I did too, but they sent us Leominster's front page.
Yeah, I didn't look at it yet,
So it
but
has,
yeah.
like, it shows Leominster, it shows how many students we have, so it has some information. So I will be happy to forward that link on to
The good news is
everybody.
they do it all, we don't have to do
Right.
anything.
Yes.
So,
What's the cost?
right? I know.
25% discount if we order before.
Right.
Yeah.
For year
Right.
one.
There is a demo period for the live version.
Right.
A free demo period that you can have the full version for a little while to really see if you're gonna make use of it before you sign up.
And didn't they say they started with the municipal one and now they've kind of branched out into the school
Yes.
one?
Right,
So,
and you could do both or one or the other.
Right.
Depending on whatever your
Well, what they do is
town
they
wants.
have
Right.
the open
I know
checkbook
exactly
thing.
what they do. I know exactly what they do.
so,
Cha-ching.
the big thing that I went to, the most that I went to was about the budget. So I went to transparency and budget presentation. I went to using analytics for public perception, which was the ClearGov, which is what that program is called. I went to special education, transportation, cost savings, and I went to budget oversight. And I really learned a lot. That the transparency in budget presentation was one that really spoke to me, because as somebody who's new on finance,
You realize what we're missing?
I do. And I do.
You're quiet tonight.
I,
What happens if she gets a little knowledge?
right? So, what,
Sent the PowerPoint.
I'm going to, I downloaded all of the PowerPoints for all of the sessions that I went to. I'm going to forward them to all of you, as well as the link for the ClearGov. But when they pulled up, so Tracy Novick did it for Worcester, and when they pulled up that thing, their presentation, it was like magic. Like, you could clearly see how much money they had, what their expenditures were, what their revolving was, what their encumbrances were, and it was just like this beautiful worksheet that I've never seen before. So, I'm gonna, I was in heaven.
Interesting, because of her perception.
It really was, understandable. So I sat on the other side for 2 years, and you sit there and you listen and you look at all these spreadsheets, and it's so confusing, and still a little confusing. But to see it in a format where I could go and talk to a parent when they say, hey, and I just show them this, and they're like, oh, okay. That's what it was like. It was like, wow, that's what it's supposed to look like. A few other things that I went to was virtual learning, about collaborating with other districts, where they actually presented this idea where, and it made me think of you guys with the AP courses, where there's a lot of communities in the area that have kids that want to take certain AP courses, but don't necessarily have the capacity to have the AP courses, where they would actually have like a Skype. And it was an interactive AP course that different schools could plug into, and they would have, an aide or whatever in the classroom, but they were having conversations with these teachers from different, with a teacher from different classrooms. And I thought that was like a fantastic idea. I went to parliamentary procedures about Robert's Rules. I went to social media do's and don'ts, which all was very fascinating to me. And
those PowerPoints too?
I do, I'll send them all. And again, the two guest speakers with Between a Rock and a Calm Place, and Dr. Ron Ferguson, who Wendy and I really, really like a lot, because we saw him speak with
Do you remember him?
Elizabeth.
I thought he was fabulous at Clark.
Yeah.
had a great
I thought he
interaction
was
with him.
We went to
great-
see him, he was on a panel, we went to go see Elizabeth Warren speak at Clark University, and he was on a
Yeah.
panel there, and whenever we saw his name on this, Wendy and I were like, whoo, we were like psyched.
Yeah, he's a good speaker.
And, so those are and then MCAS 2.0, which we all kind of went to and just kind of left there scratching our head, because the representative from DESE didn't know a lot of the answers. So, yeah, but I.
It's kind of put in a rough spot.
Yeah, so, but I do have that that PowerPoint that I'll pass around. And the last thing is that I went to the Division 4 meeting for MCAS, and I'm somehow now the secretary of it, so,
Very good.
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
Ellen? Did she recruit you?
Yes. She's like, does anybody want to? And I'm like, I wonder if I want it. She's like, Heather, and I'm like, oh.
Ron,
So here I
you
am.
next.
Wait, I just wanted to remind Jim, you were gonna, I don't know if you made note, look into, because the test
Division
is
4.
online, if it'll run, but you can download it.
Yeah, I made a note. I have it in my notes to follow up with Jerry on. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Did you go, Ron?
Division
Yes.
4.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I did,
Yeah,
I went.
I'm kidding. You emailed me.
I emailed you, what did I email?
Go ahead.
Anyway, I went to 17 of these sessions, and I'm not gonna...
17?
He stayed all 4 days.
You're like the teacher's pet.
No, well,
Okay, let's not prolong it. 17, go.
well, no, I'm not gonna repeat the things that they've already talked about. I went to the classes, and, you know, we divvied up where we're going, and when I'd sit in the classes, I always took accounting of how many people that were there. And, you know, the cheek to jowl classes, like the big centerpieces like Ron Ferguson and all these others, there was a lot of people there. Sometimes people start falling asleep halfway through the thing, like the Ron Ferguson. I wrote down some things where there was 3 words that he used. Clarify. It was. I had it right here while you guys were talking. Oh, captivate, clarify, and challenge. And you know that was on Friday, and it probably would have been nice if it would have been here maybe on Wednesday, because you know he did captivate, clarify, and challenge people, and he was good. Jan Minahan, like you were saying, she didn't talk down to us, she talked with us, because she was using the same lingo that we use on everyday speech, which was good. I went to ESSA and the Arts Presents because there's a big push, because there's a new format coming out where music is going to be included in the decorum of school. And there's a big question how you're going to fund this. And I also went to the Student Activity Revolving Funds, the audit guidelines. I went to OPEB, Social Emotional Learning. I went to that. The Mass Division and Minority Setup class, yes, I went to that. The Delegate Assembly. Resolution number 1 passed unanimously. Number 2 passed 6741. Number 3 and number 4 passed. And as usual, there was a lot of arguing about changing of the words here and there and everywhere. It was a good learning. The very first thing on Wednesday at 12:30 to 1:40, Universal Design for Learning, presented by Karen Rodriguez and Marlena Gilbert. There were 52 people there. They had some handouts. And it was kind of, it looked like they were just trying to put a new spin on how to learn. The handouts, I couldn't get them yet. I'm still waiting for them. It was a good learning process, and they had some good food, and also we went to eat at the Brazilian Grill. The first time I went to the Brazilian Grill with Hélène, and then all of a sudden, I guess we decided we're going to go back again, the whole group. And I don't know if you've ever gone to the Brazilian Grill, but you really end up stopping what to eat because you get full.
Get the
Carving
meat
station.
sweats.
It's awful. But the
It's good.
Oh, it's awful.
no, awful. I mean, it was awful
You get
good.
the
It
meat
was great.
sweats after.
I'll let you know, I didn't eat that day, just so you know. When you
We all
told me
ate
it was
enough
on the
for
menu,
you.
I just want to make sure you know that.
Well, I think we posted some stuff on Facebook. I know I posted this stuff on Facebook so that way y'all could see. I'm still waiting for some PowerPoint presentations. It hasn't gone on their website, but it was good. It was, and like Heather was saying, and Eileen and Wendy was saying, the big thing was towards the social aspect of the child in the family, in and out of the school, and I think it's going to be on the running board for a while, this whole thing. And the other part of the picture, on Saturday I went to Student in Poverty. The big thing that they talked about and admitted was that with all the stuff that's happening, all these things they had on the wall over there, the biggest hindrance is the monetary part, because all the schools, they're faced with a finite amount of money. For example, there was 1,000 people that were there over a 4-day period. vendors, committee members, superintendents, teachers. Out of 365 districts, only 325 were there. And I know Glenn was saying it's always been the thing that really puts the thorn under the saddle, because there's some districts that can't send the committee members there. So there's that lacking, and they're worried about that, because the educational dollar is shrinking. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Can I just one question or a comment about the virtual high school? I think we have that. I
We do.
think the kids can Skype in
Yeah.
to lessons and things,
Oh,
so I think
that's
we're on
awesome.
board with that.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've had it quite a few years.
Really?
Yes, right.
We also had it, yeah, for language.
They sit
Yep.
for language and they all take a different language.
All
with
kinds
one
of
monitor,
things.
Yeah.
Art.
talking to their teacher.
That's
Well, we have
fantastic.
ingenuity
Yeah,
for
right.
the,
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was that.
Yeah,
It's only the beginning,
that's right.
virtual.
yep.
And,
That's where we get the computers.
okay, we're gonna now, thank you, everybody. We're gonna move now on to subcommittee reports. We have a policy subcommittee.
So we haven't met since our last report.
Okay, move on to finance
We will be meeting the next.
Yes, and
meeting
Before the next
for
meeting?
this-
before the next meeting.
Right, yes. Yep.
Okay, finance subcommittee.
So finance, we're making slow progress towards what Heather was referring to. Glenn's on board, he's muddled through our finance office. And we're getting there, we're not there yet. We have an end of year report we need signed, but I think we need some backup for it. And we need to figure out 17, because we've got some holes to fill. More specifics to follow.
As you go in your travels, if it's ever possible, one of the things I think that we've tried to do over the years is get our arms around sort of the capital expenditures over time. So anything $5,000 or more. And so typically what happened is, year end, we'd have some extra dollars based on, heating and whatever other expenses that we had. And so we were able to sit down and go through, some of the larger ticket items. But we never really have any kind of an idea as to anything that we spend during the course of the year. So I couldn't tell you, I'm looking through some of this information here, and it's all news to me, right? In order to communicate with the public, we're talking about communicating, it's hard when you don't know that, we've done these things, to be able to communicate that. I mean, in other words, we all know, we did the roofs or the windows and big things, heating systems, those sorts of things. But I don't know that we did all these other things in here. And that's really helpful for us to get out to the community and say, look, these are all the things that we've done. And, because every year we do a lot. And, that's why I asked you for sort of your capital needs in here. If we're gonna stay in these buildings need fire systems. And that's a high priority, myself and the chief. If we're gonna keep kids here or not, one or the other, it really needs to be the highest of priority. But I wanna see, in comparison to what some of the other needs are, if there's something more important, then we need to take care of that.
So Dean, we do have one, and it's just fallen a little bit lower as we try to figure out 17 that we will be able to
Okay, good.
approve and show you. And we talked about that a couple of meetings ago. I think over the past few years, we used to spend that last few $100,000 on those things, and that's kind of stopped, unfortunately, and that's something that we want to get our arms around, because it's, that's not okay.
But purchasing is putting stuff out that's not 200,000 or 50,000, but they're smaller items, but still more than 5,000, which we categorize as capital expenditures. It just gives everybody a better understanding of, look, we are investing in the school. There's not much, we don't have as much as we wanted, but it's another communication tool to be able to kind of put that out there. But so you want that list of needs all the time, but you also want to be able to check them off as you get some of those things done.
And that's, I think, what we want to be able to do, is to show what we have accomplished. Some of the stuff we didn't even know we
That's what I'm
needed
saying.
and accomplished,
Right,
so.
right. And that's the list I'm talking about, is, some of the things that we're able to get done. I
Right.
just don't know about them.
And what was in our package was a request the finance subcommittee had made to get the facilities maintenance. So that's what this is our facilities maintenance budget.
correct, Jim?
Yes, that's correct. You,
Okay,
I wasn't
so-
at the meeting, but you had asked for
Right.
what we had backed off on from a preventative maintenance
Correct.
standpoint because of budget reductions over the years. So Tony went back and relived some of the PM type of items that he used to have in the budget and listed those for you. Plus, the second piece was that you had requested a little bit more of a narrative as to some of the challenges that we were facing with Fallbrook Elementary,
Yeah,
and he
I saw
put that
that.
narrative together,
Yeah,
so,
that's in here.
so.
And you know, if you talk to David LaPlante, have you had to interact much with David? He's a great guy. You know, I mean, he's doing his best in this, you know, transition over to Munis and other area. I mean, he's doing his best. I mean, it's huge undertaking. And so, you know, they've got a goal in place of when they'd like to be, you know, live, but that's all predicated on the stars being aligned, but it's gonna happen. But that would help us. If you come along, I don't know whether they have a category that, you know, there's an input for category for capital expenditures over 5,000, whatever. I mean, don't, you know, it just would be helpful to, at least me, I think the other members of the committee to know that, you know, we are spending money in these other areas. There's in times when, sometimes we don't have a whole lot of money, but at least we're spending some money here. All right, we have approval of the warrants?
Yes. From the expense account, warrant, and there's a lengthy list. Warrant 9 for $1,975,078.09. Warrant 10, $205,124.85. Warrant 11, $2,082,179.57. Warrant 12, $368,496.94. Warrant 13, $2,148,365.38. Warrant 14, $148,265.69. Warrant 15, $2,059,311.57. Warrant 16, $709,693.71. Warrant 17, $5,408,225.27. And then from the grants and revolving funds, warrant 9, $119,394.20. Warrant 10, $73,661.63. Warrant 11, $37,811.37. Warrant 12, $750,847.10. Warrant 13, $197,102.95. Warrant 14, $111,320.60. Warrant 15, $123,879.61. Warrant 16, $9,841.89. And warrant 17, $580,512.58.
I'll second.
A lot of warrants there, Susan.
Yeah, they're gonna shorten it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second by Suzanne. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Those opposed?
Thank
We
you.
have approved warrants. We now move on to approval of the 5-year capital plan.
I don't think we're
Yeah,
ready
we're
for
not
that
ready for
yet.
that.
Okay, getting there?
We didn't even get to it tonight.
Okay.
We have another meeting
Address it
Thursday.
yeah.
All right.
Approval of the minutes?
Approval of the minutes.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 24th, 2016, regular school committee meeting.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any errors, omissions?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and yes?
On,
First, yes.
down on workshop format, I think it's supposed to say each principal shared their data with the committee versus date. I think we want to share a date.
It would have been more fun to have
Okay,
I don't know if any,
Yeah, they had, Dean, they had you at the meeting, you weren't there.
they did.
You weren't
Virtually.
there.
I was here.
You
Tell
were
her.
virtual.
In 1D, my name was spelled wrong. It's a Z, not an S. And I guess, I just wanted to make an overall comment, if I can, before we approve the minutes. I know we held this out to be a workshop, but I truly didn't feel it was a workshop. I thought it was really more of a meeting and I thought it was a very important meeting and a very long meeting. And I felt that it should have been televised. I mean, this was performance of the schools, the achievement of our students. I thought that was a really important thing to get out to the public. So I was really disappointed that, like I said, this was way too long of a meeting. I don't think we get out of here. It says
10:35.
Yeah, it was way too long. And again, I think, a workshop is supposed to be an interactive environment where it's a give and take. That wasn't this at all. And I just feel that we did a disservice to the public not having that workshop video. That's my opinion.
Sue, I'll agree with you that I think it should have been televised, but I think one of the issues was it was not on the night that we were supposed to have the meeting.
Right.
It had been delayed, so that could have been, I think there might have been in fact, there was a city council meeting, so I'm sure
Right.
the TV service was at the city council meeting versus our meeting, so I kind of excuse that, although I'm not happy about it. I think they should be televised.
I was told it was at Appleseeds. I was not told it was at Gallagher.
Oh, so you were looking for us?
Yeah, well, I was
Oh,
covering the
that's
city
too
council,
bad.
but someone else to cover it, and they went to Appleseeds and no one was there, so.
Yeah, because originally it said Appleseeds.
Right.
Thank you.
And just one other comment, I know I had brought it up, because it was in the Sentinel, about the teacher report about continuous improvement. And I know since that was brought up, it's not reflected in the minutes, but you put a rebuttal in the newspaper, and they still came back and went back to DESE, and DESE clearly said that, there are guidelines that we should be following for teacher evaluations, and I'm not clear what was in the paper, if we are following those guidelines, Jim, and I'm hoping you come back with some explanation on that rebuttal.
Okay.
Because, I certainly want to make sure that we're hiring, the cream of the crop teachers, and, this article in the paper did not reflect that we, hire the best teachers, whatever, but that's not what we heard from the staff, so I just want to make sure that, you come back to us with a response from what DESE's opinion was in the paper, the follow-up of this article.
I will do so.
Okay, so minutes, we're still going around with errors and omissions, anything that we left out? No? I heard yeses out there, more than one. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Those opposed? We have approved minutes
With the corrections.
with corrections as amended. LCE, I've been by a couple times, moving right along.
Yeah, we're moving right along. We had I put a letter in the executive summary just to bring to your attention that we did have well, first of all, let's just go through what we have accomplished. The build-out plan has been designed. It's fully executed. We have steel petitions up, ready to be sheetrocked. At the end of October, the plumbing inspector came on site for the inspection and identified the need for additional separate restrooms for male and female staff. We had incorporated restrooms into the floor plan design for students, but not for staff. But as I said, the steel petitioning is in place and we're ready to move forward, and in order to add these additional restrooms, it's really not going to be prudent for any of us to be tearing down petition walls and redesigning the floor space. So we were able to work with the designers and identify a area where the additional restrooms could be added. It's going to add an additional 400 square feet to the floor plan that we had already designed. And unfortunately, until we have a go-ahead for the additional cost for the 400 square feet, work right now is at a standstill because the Whitney properties aren't able to move forward to get their full building permit so that we can enclose the classrooms and get the sheetrock work underway. So the original lease amount was $1 per square foot. The additional 400 square feet that needs to be added will increase the monthly lease by $400. We have discussed the proposed change to the lease with the city procurement officer. At this point, Glenn, help me out here. He doesn't see that there's
It's not 10% more.
an
than the
issue,
cost of the project.
and that I just felt it was prudent to bring it before the committee for an operational decision to move forward rather than me getting myself into trouble by saying move ahead and then have people disagree with me. So we have Carrie Duff, Glenn, who have been doing a lot of work on this, Tony Shivarasi has been involved, and we're just recommending that we approve the modifications, move ahead with the additional square footage and the cost, and we'll work with finance to make the necessary adjustments that we need to make for the additional square footage.
So I make a motion to approve the modification and additional costs.
Second.
Totaling, I would include totaling
400 times
$4,800 a year,
Yeah.
increasing the costs.
Took a little picture of the outside in the back, the river and the foliage.
Oh, let me see.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool. I mean, you know,
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if we're gonna go canoeing down there, but, you know, to get to town, like subway or anything, but it's pretty cool back there.
It's a nice location, so.
Okay, so what we're doing is sort of authorizing the superintendent to move forward with the work, and we have a motion, a second, all in favor. Those opposed? Okay.
Thank
And then
you.
we get popping again. And then the consensus agenda,
Yeah, just through the chair to note that the charter school, which is the size of school in Fitchburg, they develop an annual report. By law, they need to pass the report by the chair of the school committee. I just put it on the consensus report, included a copy in your package so that all of you are aware of the contents of the annual report. If we approve the consensus agenda, I can get back to them and tell them that I brought it before the committee, and then we have a field trip in the package for, I believe, chorus.
Yes.
So, and that is Arthur Pierce to Northeastern Mass, so.
I'll make a recommendation to approve the field trip.
After the warrants.
where they go?
Bay
This is
State.
Oliver Ames High School.
Yeah, for the Bay State
Northeastern.
competition,
Yeah,
of course.
basic competition, yep.
Cool.
10 students.
Second,
I did.
Yeah.
approved? Those opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
anything on
And we
the
don't
old
use
business?
code, we just have to.
Start with Cody, go ahead.
So the homework committee, tasked with creating a new policy on homework for the district, had our first meeting last Tuesday. There's not too much to report yet, as it was our first meeting, but it was very productive. It was really great to have parents, teachers, even students there to participate and give their input on how they feel homework contributes or takes away from students in our district. Right now, we're essentially just looking at different grade levels and doing some research into what we can find to be the most efficient way to, implement homework policy in the future. And several committee members had actually been asked questions or had heard from other people that this committee's plan was to ultimately abolish homework. So just to
They were trying to make you the
think
hero.
that was
of the
Rumors
year.
out there.
Just to be clear, we are not advocating on any grade level to abolish homework. We are simply trying to find a more effective and efficient way to implement it.
I was talking to Chinese exchange students. They talk a lot about homework because they're like mandatory. Each subject, like an hour. So if you have 6 or 7 courses, you have 6 or 7 hours. But what they like about our system is there isn't an hour of homework, which allows them to study more. What happens is they say they study more on the subjects that they prefer.
Right.
So
That's something
they're not studying any
we've
less.
discussed as well.
It just lets them study,
And,
and there's less pressure.
Right. And I will email all of you the minutes on that meeting.
Well, around, anybody, who's next?
Yeah,
Oh.
Go ahead,
I
Norma.
just want to mention that Wednesday night, the 9th, there's a concert at City Hall that the chorus is performing at for the veterans.
That's a
I
Veterans
think
Day
it's
concert.
6:30. think it's 6:30?
I can tell you.
6, because don't,
Is it
my-
6?
My son has to be there at 5:45.
Okay, so it
So
starts at
it's-
6, okay.
It's, wait, what time does the program start, do you know?
It starts.
It starts at, well, I have 6 o'clock.
Wednesday,
Yeah, that's what I-
7:30.
Thursday at.
Yeah, that's what I had too, because we were told to be there.
Is it Wednesday or
Wednesday,
Thursday?
I'm sorry,
Wednesday.
I'm just speaking a
Wednesday.
lot, 6
So
o'clock.
it's, yeah.
6 o'clock, okay. Well, I just want to bring that
You
up,
stole mine.
because I think it's,
You stole mine
I
out.
think it's good to go.
It's our Veterans Day concert.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right, Dean, we're trying to plan a joint city council meeting, but we need the 5-year capital plan to
Yep.
do that, but, you know, is it too premature to try to schedule something between now and the end of the year with city
I'd
council?
wait to get that 5-year capital plan.
So Jim, what's your goal on that?
Well, I think the plan is prepared. We've had it before finance. Some of the questions that you answered, I wasn't there, but Glenn and Tony responded to those. Depending upon how much time we have on Thursday, I would think that we could probably get the finance subcommittee to be able to move it along, and then we can get it approved at the next school committee meeting, so.
Okay, so.
I mean, as far as most of the agenda on the council is my stuff, so we got the fields
Yep.
approved, the bike
Well, we want
path
the
is
joint.
approved. No, I'm just saying, so most of so this should be, from what I can see, I'm going down Monday night, and then after that, I don't see a whole lot on the agenda, so I think anytime after that's fine.
So, I mean, I think we should have this done, we could have this done Thursday, because I think most of our questions were answered. There's still some discussion, just because,
Yeah.
Jim, you weren't there, you know, I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we could talk about it with you. But that puts us into December, you know, by the time we vote as a full committee, we're in the second meeting in November,
Yeah, that'll be the 11/21, yeah.
so,
I mean, I have some things coming up, but they're not,
So is that agreeable? Is everybody
Yeah.
agreeable, like, to try to shoot for this year? We haven't had any meetings,
I
and I
just hate
think
to
we should.
wait too long to try to schedule it, because then we're gonna be right around
Right.
the holidays, and.
So,
I'd say
like,
there's
maybe-
only one, I think there's only one meeting in December, so I'd do the first meeting
Okay.
in December.
Their meeting.
Or, I mean, if it's a
Yeah,
special
or
night or
whenever.
whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna try to be on their agenda, correct?
Right, but I'm just saying, if you want to do it the same night as the regular meeting, I don't see a whole lot that,
Yeah, that's what I
I
would
got
think,
going
right?
down.
So it'd be an opposite Monday of our meeting?
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so we'll schedule that, and that'll be our goal.
But I don't see anything that wouldn't keep us from passing that
Right.
quickly.
And do we need, like, budget numbers for that? I mean, that's the other concern I think we've been holding up. So do we have,
But I will say one thing with that, I mean, the numbers we have are older, right? So we can present anything we want that we've approved, but
I need rough numbers, but I need to know a priority, like.
we've got the, I think
That's
we've got the
the
priority.
priority.
This
Yeah.
is 2, this is 3.
Yep.
I don't need
yeah, we have all that.
exacts,
Yeah.
because
We
until you
have
go
that.
out to bid, there are no exacts. I just need rough numbers,
Yep.
the range.
We don't need to go much past 1, I don't think. There's a few ones.
Yeah, do you want the total, 144,000?
No.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, so 2 things. One, to your meeting, your homework meeting. At the MASC conference, they did have a session called Have You Done Your Homework Yet? Our field director, Dorothy Presser, actually did that, and I didn't go to it because it was on Saturday and I had to leave. But I'm happy to reach out to her to see if there was any PowerPoints or any information that I could get for you and pass it along.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is our second Transportation Task Force meeting is gonna be on November 29th. It's a Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. I think you all received the email about it. If anyone is interested in coming, I am happy to forward you, I think I forwarded you all the information from the last meeting. We do have Donna Hildreth, who used to work at First Student, who does not work there anymore, and now works for Fitchburg, coming to the meeting, so that she can give us some insight and maybe some guidance into what we can do to save some money.
Can I ask one question about that? And I saw some of your numbers in there, and I didn't see, if you total up what our in-district and out-of-district special ed tuition is, plus what our mandated elementary, you know, through 6 transportation is, do you know what those costs are? Like our mandated costs, as opposed to our goal?
I don't have that yet, but I will have that, and I'll make
Okay.
sure that I forward it along to you. One quick other thing too is I have a friend of mine whose child went, there's a Hanscom Air Force Base, they did something, right? there?
Starbase.
Starbase.
The fifth graders do that.
So I reached out to him and I said, when your son is done, I want to talk to him because I want to find out how he liked it. I want to hear about his experiences and stuff. So they reached out to me yesterday. He's really excited to talk to me. So once I get some of that information, I'll pass that on to you as well.
And Jim, I thought all the fifth graders were gonna get to go this year. Is Gina back there?
Yes, Starbase, they reached out to us again and offered 2 weeks for each elementary school.
Oh, but not everyone in each elementary school gets to go.
No,
No.
because they work with quite a few.
Bless you.
Bless you.
But they did host the ELL students over the summer. They had a week, and then Peter worked with Leominster, and he said each elementary school would have 2 weeks. So you were able to go. So, yes, it's a fabulous program, fabulous.
My fifth grader was not picked.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Mine either.
We're very fortunate to have that nice partnership because there's a lot of districts that want it.
Thank you.
All right, through the chair, the only other item that was in front of you was the year-long agenda. I passed it on to the mayor and to Sue as vice chair. So it lays out at least through the initial meetings in January. The only thing that, based upon our discussion down in Hyannis, was that on the December 19th meeting, and sometimes, you know, people may or may not want to meet that close to the holiday, but I have a workshop plan to work more on the pre-K through 12 STEM pathway, but really talk about science, technology, and engineering. And I'm wondering whether we should just shift that topic to social emotional learning. To give you a quick update on what we've been doing in the district, we can push the science, technology, engineering piece to another workshop after the first of the year. But if you want to address the social emotional learning, I can put something together for that. So
I
it's
don't
up
know,
to you.
we worked hard to try to get the schedule. I don't know, if I want to start, I don't know.
Yeah, I only bring it up because I hadn't discussed it,
Yeah.
this minor item with Sue and the mayor, but based upon what we talked about while we were down in Hyannis, seems like that might be a pertinent topic to address. So it's up to you guys, but you can provide some feedback later, so.
What day would this be?
The 19th.
Oh, it's just a regular scheduled meeting. It's,
December 19th,
it's,
right?
yeah,
list.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Can we
know.
put it on our next, just add
Sure,
it on
that's
to the
fine.
next?
Yeah,
I just feel like we finally have something. I hate to start messing with it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
okay, that's fine.
I just had one last thing since we're 8:41, and if I can do this in 4 minutes. So we've been working with the United Way. Anybody that's sort of worked in the system realizes there are a lot of nonprofits and social service agencies in this region. But they're all funded differently, and so their motivation or their overall goal and mission can either overlap or in some cases be the exact same. So what we've tried to do, and so if you're somebody in need, and let's just say, you know, child gets sick, 2 people are working, suddenly 2 people can't work anymore, but you got your mortgage to pay, you're falling on hard times. That's a pretty regular, I mean, that's a regular scenario. Either way, or somebody lost their job, those things come up. So every time you go, and in most cases, these are temporary hiccups along the way. And so every agency you go to, it's, you've got to tell the story over and over and over. It's the same thing. There's no single point of entry. So what we've tried to develop is a way where there's a single point of entry. And this may be the part that helps what you're doing, because it would allow everyone, police, fire, nonprofits, the library, adoption services, you name it, it would allow everybody a point of entry. And there are firewalls, obviously, to sort of protect, you know, certain HIPAA laws or whatever they might be. But in that system would allow, so if a kid was having trouble with reading or math, it might not just be that the school provides that. Maybe there's somebody else in the system that provides that, or matching money, or there are so many different parts of this equation. So so the United Way, it agreed to sort of take this a little bit further, because it's real frustrating for the people that are at the front lines of this to not have everything right at their fingertips to be able to help people. So if it's food, you know, it could be food, could be anything. And believe me, there are so many agencies that we work with directly. It's like a phone book. But understanding what each does and what the requirements are. So United Way attended a session similar to what many of you went to, and have come up with a system that is in play right now that would do exactly that. But it would stop that person from, you know, and the whole hopes is you enter the system, but you come out of it, you know. And it also, you know, the other part of it is somebody that abuses the system, a small percentage, would show up in that system as well. So if somebody's going to 5 food banks or going to, you know, get clothing from 9 different places, they took 8 turkeys at Thanksgiving, you know, they're clearly going to show up, because that hurts the person that's in need. So I you know, funding wise, I think we'll be able to fund this, and it's a building process because there's so many different agencies. But it might, you know, help in that getting through this sort of cultural barriers. And I find the greatest, you know, I don't like to mix church with state here, but a lot of the churches are really helpful, to me at least, in terms of getting through that cultural barrier and understanding when parents don't speak English, or, you know, they speak 2 other languages but maybe not English so well. And I think the system would really allow, instead of so much duplication and so much frustration with the system, would allow that single point of entry from wherever they go is the beginning, but all those other services that help them to get back on their feet, which is where we ultimately want them. You know, so if it's a housing issue, or, you know, so no more of this. Every time the phone rings and Chris gets the call, she has to go through this. Is it this agency? Is it that? Here's the phone number. I think this person's still there. I'm not sure whether they're still there or not. And it just goes on, and it's really taking up a lot of people's.
So what, United Way is coordinating?
So they're gonna, right, so we will meet with a larger group now, and I suspect like the hospital, you know, they have a huge financial gain by being involved in something like this, the healthcare people, us, United Way, and they would run sort of a test on this. And we're looking at other places that already have it. So I'll probably go out to one of the states that already have it to kind of see how it works, just to see it, but we've seen an example of it. But that might be a way for us to tie in more other people who are trying to help us with the same exact thing that we're trying to do. You know, those other agencies that might be out there, whether they're funding organizations or whatever they might be, but it's really become overwhelming to try to pair all these people up with services. And again, you know, you come in on the system, and the hope is to get you back on your feet, and, you know, back to where you ultimately would like to be. But there are just so many different people that do different things, and some do the same, and it's all funding, you know, it's where the funding brings you. So there is sometimes not a motivation for people to work together, even though they do similar things, because their funding is different, so they have to, you know. So I sign things all day long, letters from people who are putting in for grants, and we never hear about them again. They're like, yeah, we need a letter of support, I need you to sign this grant. We can't get it unless you sign it. I sign it, we never hear back from them. We're not even sure what happens with it. There's, you know, not a whole lot of accountability in it, you know. These are millions of dollars worth of grants, but at least it would give us that tie-in with all of these agencies. And again, the fire blocks are there so that we're not gonna be in, you know, you're not gonna be able to get into somebody from your agency.
Right.
You know, there'll be a block there, and the school department can't get in somebody's criminal record, but, you know. But if we come across a young person we're dealing with in the juvenile court, we might be able to help them out with, you know, some of the other agencies. Exactly, and that's what it is. It really is networking on, you know, in a pretty
And
large.
we're lucky we live in such a good area. We're lucky we have all those. But
Oh,
the
I
coordination is necessary.
We-
Yeah.
We are
So many
really
great
lucky.
agencies.
We are really lucky we have them, and we call on them all the time, and we work, I mean, there's never a day that doesn't go by where people are calling us and,
One
you
of
know,
the things they
begging for
talked
help.
about was the continuity of care and wraparound services, would also help the principals and the guidance of the buildings know which kids were in need of what without it having to be explained over and over.
Exactly.
And that wraparound from building to building is important for
Mhm.
for the students and their families.
23 years ago, I said, you gotta send, I mean, the basic principle of an adult parent or guardian is to send your kids to school rested, fed, and ready to learn. And after that, the miracles happen. The teachers do a really good job, the staff, everybody does a good job. And I think what we're back to talking about here is, these kids aren't coming to school rested, they're not coming to school fed, and they're not coming to school ready to learn, yet we expect our teachers to perform miracles when, the day has already started and there are already issues. And that's exactly, lends to exactly what you're saying is, we gotta get back to the real basics here. If you expect the teachers to have a lesson plan and you expect certain outcomes, then you gotta start with something first thing in the morning, and that's, everything's upside down now. We've gotta, change, as you said, retool ourselves to make those adjustments so that we can get to the learning part, which is why we're here, right? I mean, that's why, but. Okay, so I'll keep you up to date on that, but that sounds helpful. I mean, at least it'll take a while to build because there's so many different, agencies and everyone. I mean, the hospital is dealing with a lot of this stuff, so they're gonna be a big player right away because they're the place that's open 24/7, along with the police and fire department. So they're huge benefactors of this. So.
Jim,
Yes.
you have the November 21st meeting at LCE, but which LCE?
I think we'll probably go to Doyle.
It won't be the new one.
Does that make sense, or do we want to wait until the new one?
Move it to another, we can wait till Carrie gets, right now, our estimated time for transition is the holiday break in December. Hopefully, we can move this along now that we have the approval on the lease. So we can wait and have the meeting at LCE at the new location after the first of the year, so.
Are we paying Jimmy rent right now? Are we paying him rent?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
Yes.
we are.
I was gonna say, if we're not,
Then
he'd be
it's a
ready next
conflict.
week.
And that's one of the, the things that we're
So-
gonna pay.
I'm just saying, if we weren't,
We can move
This
it
is
soon, I can fix it.
Wait,
yeah.
so
This are-
Wendy just said this says Appleseed.
This doesn't have us at
So-
LCE till April.
Okay,
This
that's
Friday.
fine, I'll double check it again and we'll get LCE off of there and move
So
it
we'll
to
be
a
at
date
Appleseed's
after the
at the
first of the
next
year.
meeting?
So
Yeah.
which is the right one, this?
The cover sheet.
Has
there,
this
yes.
changed though from the original one?
No, it hasn't. I
Okay,
just put
so
it
it's
on
just-
so that you could ask the question that you just asked because I got the wrong location.
all right, so we'll stay. Okay, anything else? If not, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So we thank, the school and all the work
Thank you,
that they do.
everyone.
and
Thank you.
Enjoy the,
And it
Yeah.
says-
festivities.